Last Friday evening, there was a shooting in a yoga studio. And what we know about the shooter so far is that he was apparently a right-winger, possibly a member of the incel community, meaning that he was involuntarily celibate. And unfortunately, this shooting did lead to the deaths of 2 individuals. So this gunman opened fire inside the yoga studio in Tallahassee, Florida, and shot 6 women. He also pistol whipped a man in the studio as well. He killed 2 people, including a doctor and a college student, before eventually turning his gun on himself. In regard to the man that he pistol whipped, the reason why he did that was because when his gun jammed, the man took a broomstick and started attacking the shooter in an effort to get him to stop or to leave. And unfortunately, he was attacked by getting pistol whipped as a result of that. Now, what we know about the shooter is as follows. He had a history of harassing young women and had expressed misogynistic and racist views online, including sympathy for the anti-women incel movement. In fact, he had gotten arrested a couple of times for sexually assaulting women, including in one case, going up to a woman who was sunbathing, grabbing her butt and slapping it. His name is Scott Beierle, and he was a substitute middle school teacher, which is terrifying. He also was a Florida State University graduate and Army veteran with a history of harassing young women, including 2 arrests for groping. So I wanted to give you some information about the 2 women who lost their lives as a result of this monster. But before I do that, I just want to go to you, Cenk. There's been a number of violent right-wing attacks in the country. One of the more recent ones was the synagogue shooting that claimed the lives of 11 people. Yeah. And it's right-wing violence that has gone ignored and has been encouraged by our president over and over again.
Okay, so that's 4 right-wing terrorist attacks in the last 2 weeks. That's it, last 2 weeks, 4 right-wing attacks. So this guy's absolutely right-wing. God, they equivocate in the press so much because they're so worried about the precious sensitivities of the right wing, because they love to cry and cry. You know what you should be crying over is the actual victims who are murdered, not about the people who feel aggrieved that these guys were all right-wingers, and they were. He not only hated feminism, he attacked the left wing nonstop. He also was deeply racist, and he talked about how women who were in interracial relationships had basically betrayed, quote, their blood. Okay. And so he was part of the FSU College Republicans. It was the only other group he was part of was called, quote, "We Are Conservatives." Gee, I wonder which side he was on. I can't quite tell.
I don't know, Cenk. We don't want to share any opinions here. We want to stick to the facts by not reporting the facts, right?
Yeah. So the other right-wing terrorists, obviously, the guy who sent the bombs to all the liberals and Democrats, the guy who shot up the synagogue in Pittsburgh. That guy thought Trump wasn't right-wing enough. So sometimes they shade it by saying he was against Trump. No, he loved what Trump was doing, but thought he wasn't extreme enough, that he needed to hate Jews just a little more, right? It's not like he was against Trump because he's a left-winger. No, he was extreme right-wing, right? And now, of course, these are all shooters and bombers, et cetera. So by definition, they're extreme right-wing. And so by definition, they're extreme and they are part of the right wing. So, and then if you haven't heard of this, in Kentucky, a guy went to shoot black people in a church. The church was locked, so he went to a Kroger and shot 2 African Americans dead while yelling things about white supremacy. So also right wing, that's 4 in just 2 weeks. And they say, oh, but the left wing is sometimes too loud when they're talking to Mitch McConnell. And then what do? Mob. Okay, now, and whenever you say no, it's the right wing, and it's 70, even before these 4 attacks, 71% of the terrorist attacks in this country over the last 15 years that resulted in deaths were by right-wing extremists. 71%, now that number's through the roof. Where as far as number of deaths, it's probably over 90% now. But yet we somehow, they don't even call it 50-50. The press regurgitates right-wing crap nonstop. And so now why do I care that it's right-wing? God, they're here, man. This is terrorism. They terrorize you and they intimidate you. So now, if, for example, you wanted to help the people in the caravan, we talked about it on Friday's show. If you wanted to send aid to those people because they're the most downtrodden people in the world, not that necessarily to come here, but my God, they need blankets, they need food, etc. Right? They're dirt poor, and they're running from violence. If you wanted to help them, one of these guys might send a bomb to your house. Well, that's how fascism takes hold. That when you try to do good for other people, when you stick up for other people, they terrorize you with violence. The Klan did it in this country earlier. Unfortunately, to great effect, they terrorized anyone who might want to even help African Americans in this country. And they did the lynchings and they said, know your place. And here we are again, a day before an election, and it's nonstop right-wing terrorist attacks. And so this guy, total goddamn loser. Now, I don't say that because he wasn't getting women. Look, the whole incel community, God, you guys are so stupid. What is that name? Involuntarily celibate. Yeah, I got news for you. We were all involuntarily celibate. It's not like people volunteered for it when we were growing up. You think my celibacy when I was in high school and large parts of college were because I volunteered for it? No, we couldn't. Okay, we've all been there, man. We've all been there. That doesn't mean you go murder women. You're not a loser because you can't get women. We've all been there, right? Almost all of us. You're a loser if you can't get women or any other thing that's wrong in your life and you blame others for it. And then you attack them and you murder them. That's what makes you a loser.
Just quickly going back to the way the press covers this type of violent, these types of violent events. It's always really fascinating to me who the press is comfortable calling entitled and uncomfortable calling entitled. So the incel community, particularly guys like Scott Beierle, who goes into a yoga studio and murders people because he can't get laid. He thinks he's entitled to women having sex with him, even though he won't take responsibility for his flaws, for what he can improve, those types of things. But the press has no problem calling Americans who might want better economic opportunities entitled, or millennials who want a more affordable education entitled. Like, they have no problem calling those groups of people entitled, but this kind of guy who is literally feeling like he's entitled to women giving their bodies to him, they won't call him entitled.
No, they're scared to death of the right wing. The cowardice of the press is deeply depressing. So, I mean, you order an avocado toast, they're gonna call you entitled. These guys go murder people because they're saying, what, I should have all the women. And the blacks shouldn't have the women, I should have them. I'm entitled to women. Oh my God, I'm involuntarily celibate. When in reality, of course, they should all come to me. And you don't call that entitled because, oh my God, you might hurt the sensibilities of the right wing. Oh my God, you don't want to offend them. So I talked about it on social media today, and they all immediately come to cry. Their favorite thing in the world is crying. So they're like, oh, how could you say they're right wing? They're obviously right wing. God damn it, he's in a group called We Are Conservatives. Not every single one of these guys is a right winger in these string of attacks. Well, and then you guys still cry like, oh no. What do you mean? And then you blamed all of us because somebody was talk loudly to Mitch McConnell. So please spare me your crocodile tears. When you smeared the left 1,000,000 times over and the press aided and abetted you, okay? I'm tired of it. Now we're gonna get to the victims in a second. It is heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking. And before we do it though, I also wanna make a point about how, conservatives, right wingers, the Republican Party overall, they hate when anyone, whether it's people doing commentary or members of the media, talk about the political affiliations of these violent attackers, right? Of these terrorists. But let's just go back a couple of years and think about how these are the same individuals who had no problem lumping in every Muslim with radical terrorists. Right?
That's a great point, Anna. 1.6 billion people they put into the same camp as Al-Qaeda and ISIS and didn't have a qualm about it. Didn't think about it for a second. And by the way, look at the fascists that are in this country. And it's not just the people doing the attacks. What did they do? First, they isolated one religion and said, well, no, but they had it coming for their actions. And they judged 1.6 billion people based on the actions of a tiny percentage, right? And then when you turn around and you go, but wait a minute, guys, Trump is cutting the Department of Homeland Security budget for looking into white right-wing extremists. And so I'm not doing it to blame all right-wingers, and I'm not doing it to blame all white people. It would be preposterous, right? We're doing it because we actually want you to follow the right-wing extremists because they are doing terrorism. Then they go, how dare you? You've hurt my feelings. Hurt your feelings? I mean, how many terrorist attacks does it take for you to realize there is significant right-wing extremism in this country? And so what do the fascists do that support these guys? They go, the Muslims, they have bad religion, let's separate them. Then they came for the Latinos, then they came for the trans, and they came for gay people, and they came for these different groups. This is the textbook fascism. You're sitting right in the middle of it. And then if you go to help people, well, we might kill you, we might murder you, so you better not act. You better not support other people, right? And all aided and abetted by all these lunatics on the internet, on the right wing, and the guys wearing the MAGA hats going, yeah. We don't actually find out the real problem. Blame people who didn't do it. Blame the caravan. The caravan's hundreds of miles away. None of them have any weapons. None of them did anything. You want to talk about safety? You cowards! I know you bathe in fear. You're like, oh my God, I'm afraid of Latinos. Latinos and Muslims, I'm so afraid. No, the murderer is right next to you, and it's a right-wing extremist. But you don't want to do anything about that. The murders are nonstop, the massacres. It's done with guns in this country. No, you kill my neighbor, I don't care. As long as it's not a Latino or a Muslim. That's fascism.
So I wanted to give you a few quotes from people who actually knew the shooter, because it gives you a sense of how people felt about him and how uncomfortable he made people feel. In fact, one male FSU student who was roommates with him in 2011 told USA Today, quote, "He was very weird and made everyone uncomfortable, particularly with regards to women." And that was a common theme among everyone who was quoted in various articles, people who knew him, people who had interacted with him. There was one woman who was sexually assaulted by him and she did not report it to the cops, and now she feels, and she shouldn't, but she feels a great deal of remorse and regret because she thinks maybe if I had reported it and he got arrested, this shooting wouldn't happen. But I do want to talk about the women who lost their lives. One of those women was Dr. Van Vessem. She was a well-respected chief medical director for Capital Health Plan and also a faculty member at the nearby Florida State University. And there's a photo of her. So unfortunately, she lost her life at the hands of this terrorist. Also, Mara Binkley is a 21-year-old, or was a 21-year-old, and a fourth-generation legacy student at FSU, where she was double majoring in German and English. She was hoping to get a job with Teach for America after graduating next May.
So I read the stories of, they talked to her dad. Imagine, man. And they had to tell him, oh, your daughter was gunned down by a guy who was bitter that he couldn't get dates. And so he just randomly murdered your daughter. And I look at Dr. Van Vessem. I mean, she was leading 450 medical professionals, doing great work. She went to go do yoga one day. And some madman walks in and murders her. Her whole family now has to suffer, everybody around her, etc., because some idiot, and this is an important part, guys, got egged on. It's not like there weren't guys who couldn't get dates before. It's not like there weren't people who were rabidly against the left before. It's not like there weren't deeply anti-Semitic people before, but they're egged on, not just by Trump, but by people online go, oh, you're right, women are the problem, Yeah, hey, somebody could do something about it, women are the problem. Right? And there are lunatics in the country. And now they're all armed and they're all encouraged online. Yeah. And so now he goes in and goes, oh great, I'll murder this doctor and this poor girl. And there's 4 other people that got hurt, and then the guy who also got hurt, the 4 were shot. 2 of them are still in the hospital. The others are out, 2 still in the hospital. We hope to God they're okay. All gunned down because people online are like, oh, you're right, man. It's not you. I mean, get a load of the right wing that pretends that they care about personal responsibility. It isn't never your fault. It's always someone else's fault. This killer, in this case, also wrote articles against the Muslims because they were too violent, let's note that irony, and against gay people. It's never your fault, it's the gay people, it's the Muslim people, it's the Jewish people, it's women, etc. And so now, because of his insecurities fed by his cohorts online, his fellow lunatic right-wingers online, these people are dead.
And look, I went to an event over the weekend, and it was a political event, a fun one, nothing too serious. But I noticed as I was walking into the building that there were no metal detectors, and I got very uncomfortable and even considered maybe I shouldn't be here. And that's what terrorism is. It makes you rethink the way you live your life because you worry about violence, you fear for your life, and we shouldn't be living in a country like that. I mean, this is America. And when Trump was running, he argued that he was gonna keep America safe. But we have seen a rise in violence. We've seen a rise in right-wing extremism in the country, and it's terrifying. And that's the reason why this election tomorrow is so important. We need to get real leaders back in office.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.